teachings of Rabbi Ephraim Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Parshat Pinchas. Pinchas, the son of Elazar and Aaron Cohen, God says, remove my anger from the Jewish people, and I did not destroy the Jewish people in my jealousy. By doing an act of zealotry, Pinchas saved the entire Jewish people from destruction, but the plague broke out after they sinned with the Moabite and Midianite women. Thus, God gives him the eternal covenant of Kahuna. Now, even though Aaron was a Cohen, and Aaron's son was a Cohen, you know the story about a guy goes to his Reform rabbi and says, Rabbi, you got to make me a Cohen. Here's $5,000. He says, my son, why is it so important to make you a Cohen? He said, well, my father was a Cohen, my grandfather was a Cohen, my great-grandfather was a Cohen, make me a Cohen. He didn't know that you don't have to. If your father's a Cohen, and you're a Cohen automatically. So if Aaron is a Cohen, and his son Elazar is a Cohen, why does God say that Pinchas only gets his kahuna after he did this act of zealotry and atoning for the Jewish people? So Rashi explains that even though the kahuna was given to Aaron and his sons, it was given to Aaron and his sons, who were anointed with him, and all future generations that are going to be born later. But Pinchas, since he wasn't a son, he was a grandson of Aaron, and he was born before Aaron and his sons were anointed, so he fell through the cracks. Aaron and his sons and all future unborn generations. But Pinchas was a grandson, and he was not anointed, and therefore he didn't become a Kohen until he did this act of zealotry. Which is strange, because the halacha is if a Kohen kills somebody, even b'shogeg, he is not allowed to do the avodah. And here, Pinchas Dafke, by doing this act of zealotry, he became a Kohen only after he killed Zimri and Cosby, thereby stopping the plague. And Torah gives us the name of the princess who sinned with Zimri. Her name was Cosby, the daughter of the king of Midian. Now, why is that important that she was the daughter of the king of Midian? The Torah's GPS. Why is that important? So Rashi says the Torah wants to point out how much the Midianites hate us. That a king would prostitute his own daughter. Only a person would give his life to protect his daughter's honor. But here the king of Midian made his own daughter a prostitute in order to make Israel sin. So you see that their hatred for us is even more than the love for their own children. That's who we're dealing with. The Torah points out, if someone hates you more than they love their own children, willing to destroy their own children to destroy the Jews, that's the type we're dealing with, and therefore the Torah points out who she was. And right after that, the Torah gives the yichus, the pedigree of the Jewish people. Count the Jewish people. Right? What's the connection? Right after the plague, count the Jewish people. And each one, God puts a hey in the yud. Hachinochi, Chanoch, Hachinochi, hey yud. Hakarmi, Karmi, hey yud. All of the Shvatim have a hey in front and their name a yud in the end. Hey yud is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Why is that? The Torah wants to testify that even though the men sinned with the Moabite women, the Jewish women did not sin. They remained pure. Not one woman committed a sin. And therefore, hey Yud, God puts his name to testify that the Jewish women were chaste, were modest. Throughout the whole stay in the Midbar and the stay in Egypt, the Torah testifies that despite being slaves in Egypt, Umas Olam said, if they ruled our bodies, they certainly ruled our lives. So God says, no, all Jewish women remain pure in Egypt. One exception. But besides her, the 210 years, all the Jewish women remain modest, and therefore God puts his name, the Hey and the Yud, in each of the tribes. Then the Torah goes on and tells us the sons of Korah did not die. Now this is Parshat Pinchas. Why not tell us that the sons of Korah didn't die in Parshat Korah when the rebellion broke out? There it doesn't tell us the sons of Korah didn't die. Why now? Why the delay? They did tshuva. So we have to observe the Bnei Korah. How will they behave? Will they be like On ben Peles, who also is a ringleader? He disappears from history. On from the word onen. He could not stop mourning for himself and feeling sorry for himself. Only move on and turn the sin into a win. Move on. So Torah wants to observe the behavior of the Bnei Korach. Don't wallow in sins of the past, as On ben Peles did, the other ringleader. Do tshuva, be able to move on and turn that sin into a plus. Moving on up. Bnei Korach were able to do that. But that takes time to observe their behavior. Will they wallow in guilt, or will they be able to move on? So Torah delays judgment. Now, Bnei Korach lo mesu, able to do tshuva and write the most beautiful psalms that we say on Rosh Hashanah before Tkiyat Shofar. We say the Bnei Korach song, because they demonstrated the awesome power of tshuva. Person creates Bnei Korach. Rashi quotes the Talmud. They originally joined the conspiracy, and during the machlokes they did tshuva. Therefore, they are suspended somewhere very bizarre, Mokam Gavoa Begehenum, and they sit over there. Looks like the Bnei Korach have been to hell and back. Our sins, we create our own hell, and through tshuva we can create our own Gan Eden. It's up to us. We decide which way to go. Then the Torah goes on and speaks about all the Chagim. All the Chagim. But before we get to the Chagim, the Torah tells us that in this new census, there wasn't one man remaining on the census of 39 years earlier that Moshe and Aaron counted the Jews in the Midbar Sinai. In this new census, no man remained alive. They all died out during the 40 years of wandering for the sin of the Meraglim. The only men that survived was Caleb and Yeshua. It says no man survived. But Rashi says, but the women did not die because of the Chet Meraglim, because they loved the land of Israel. Men said, appoint a new captain, let's go back to Egypt. The women, like the Bnei Zelophehad, they loved the land. They said, give us a portion of the land of Israel. It says they came from Menashe ben Yosef. Rashi says, we know Menashe is the son of Yosef. Why tell us that Bnei Zelophehad, these girls come from Menashe ben Yosef? Who doesn't know that Menashe is the son of Yosef? Where did these girls get the love for Eretz Yisrael from? From their great-grandfather Joseph. Joseph loved the land of Israel. He passed that love on to his grandchildren, granddaughters. during the 40 years, the entire male population died out. Only the women folk remained. Besides Kalev and Yeshua ben Nun, the two exceptions. So Bnei Zelophehad, they asked, we want a share in Eretz Yisrael. Give us our father's share. Moshe brought their case to Hashem. Moshe wasn't sure if women inherit when there are no men or brothers. He forgot the halacha. They knew better. They said, we know that God wants us to have our share in Eretz Yisrael. This Parshat of Yerusha was brought to fore to the Bnei Zelophehad, that women also get a share in the land if there are no men. And if there are men, they still get a share anyway. And therefore, Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Bnei Zelophehad speak correctly, right on, girls. Give them. They only ask for one portion, the father's portion. God says these girls deserve a portion not just from the father, but also from the grandfather. Give them a double portion. Rashi said, beautiful is the person, the Kodesh Baruch Hu admits that he's right. God said, these girls are right, right on. Right after that, Shem tells Moshe, go up to the Mount of Arim and see the land of Israel, and you will die as your brother died. Now, death in the Torah is described as being gathered to your people. Person dies, he's gathered to his ancestors in the afterlife. So why bring it up here? He doesn't die here. He has a whole book of Devarim to deliver. So Rashi said, because God said, give them their portion in the land, Moshe said, God commanded me to make these girls inherit. Perhaps the decree of death has been suspended, and I can enter Eretz Yisrael to carry out God's decree to make sure these girls get what's coming to them. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, sorry, my decree stands. My decree stands, even though we can trust Yeshua ben Nun to give these girls their proper portion in the land of Israel. We can trust these girls. Another reason why this parsha is brought here, even though Moshe doesn't die now, God says climb the mountain and see the land. He doesn't do that until the end of the book of Devarim. We're only in the middle of Pinchas, Bamidbar. Is because Moshe entered the territory of Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. So Moshe rejoiced. Perhaps because Baruch Hu has rescinded the neder of Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain. So Rashi said like a king who was angry with his son, and he said, do not enter the palace. When the son entered the shar, the gate, he followed, fine. The chutzner, fine. Once he was approaching the palace, the king said, the inner chamber, my son, from now on you're forbidden. So the Bnei Gad and Bnei Ruvain, the east bank of the Jordan, that's like the shar, the gate of the palace. So Moshe can enter that. But Eretz Yisrael proper, the other side of the Jordan, that's the Kiton, that's the inner palace, and there Moshe was not permitted to enter. So God says, don't get your hopes up too high. You can enter the gate, but you can't enter the inner palace, which is the Eretz Yisrael proper. Now, here it's called Har Avorim. In Parshat Zayis Bracha, the mountain is called Har Nevo. Same mountain. Why is it called Har Nevo? Har Nevo is a contraction, Nun Bo. Rosh Hashanah says, Nun Shari Bina. There are 50 gates of wisdom and understanding. Moshe Rabbeinu was Nun Bo, Har Nevo. Moshe Rabbeinu entered the 50th gate of Yerusha, of understanding and wisdom, yet he was not permitted to enter Eretz Yisrael. But if he got the laws of Yerusha, to give these B'nai Zelophehad the opportunity and the schos to teach the laws of Yerusha, that women, there are no brothers, also inherit equally with a man the land of Israel or any Yerusha. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, appoint Yeshua ben Nun to be your substitute. When you die, your sons are not worthy. It's your trusted disciple who will succeed you. He's worthy, but not your sons. The question is, why not Pinchas? Pinchas was the hero. So why wasn't he appointed the leader? The answer is, a leader cannot be a zealot. Zealotry is fine for the moment. Fireworks display. But Yeshua ben Nun, he's the hero, steady as a street lamp, dependable, consistent. Fireworks, it's a great display, but not much light. Yeshua ben Nun, steady as you go. Dependable, consistent, low-key, old, reliable. And that's why Yeshua was chosen to succeed Moshe and not Pinchas, even though he was a hero. His act of zealotry saved the day. And right after that, Rish Baruch Hu speaks about the Karbonot, the Korban Tamid, the daily offering, a lamb in the morning, a lamb in the afternoon, as was done in Har Sinai. Why mention that? We know it was done in Har Sinai, and the Korban Tamid is done all the time in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Mishkan. Why mention Har Sinai? The Har Sinai, Yichan Sham Yisrael, Ki'ish Echad Belev Echad. Jewish people united as one. Otherwise, we would not be able to receive the Torah. Because not any single Jew can do all the mitzvot. Some mitzvahs only for Kohanim, for Levites, for women. Only when we unite as one unit can we accept the Torah in totality. So Hashem said, I want that Har Sinai experience to accompany you throughout life. Tamid, always. Then the Torah speaks about Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, Gemara Sanhedrin says, whoever says Rosh Chodesh, he receives the Shekhinah's presence. Wow. Why is that? Rabbi Prague says, when you're doing Kiddush HaChodesh, in the middle you say Shalom Aleichem. You ever wonder why you say Shalom Aleichem in the middle of Kiddush HaChodesh? Rabbi says something incredible. When you do Kiddush Levana, it's Ilu Mekabel Pnei HaShekhinah. But when you turn up to a fellow Jew with a smile and a hello, you are Mekabel Pnei HaShekhinah. Because every Jew has a chelik l'haim imal inside of him. Every Jew has a tzelem Elohim. So when you turn to a fellow Jew with a shalom aleichem, it's not ki ilu mekabel pnei hashchina, but mekabel pnei shchina. Therefore, in the middle of Rosh Chodesh, Kiddush Levana, we turn to a fellow Jew and we say shalom aleichem. There's a mitzvah to have a Suda Rosh Chodesh. It's the first mitzvah we were given before we left Egypt even. Because we are like the moon. We wax and wane. If the moon looks like it's about to disappear and comes back, we are the great comeback kid. We can rejuvenate ourselves. That's why we follow a lunar calendar. That's our destiny. To wax, to wane. It looks like we're about to be swallowed up in darkness. And we keep coming back. Carbon Tamid. Carbon Tamid. Klal Godel B'Torah. Tamid is brought in the morning. Tamid is brought in the evening, late afternoon, almost evening time. When things are bright, it's morning. When a person is tsar, even terrible suffering, it's choshech. Tamid. We always have to be loyal to Hashem and not to lose our faith and not to fall into despair. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but that's the struggle against the Yetzer Hara. Not to let the choshech get the best of you. Even though sometimes it's not easy when a person is suffering. That's the struggle. The Torah goes on and speaks about the Chagim, speaks about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah, you blow a ram's horn. Why do you blow a lamb's horn? Rosh Hashanah says that the Akedas Yitzchak took place on Rosh Hashanah. God says, blow for me the shofar of Ayil, and I will remember for you Akedat Yitzchak, and I will consider it as if you yourselves were an Akedah, bound yourself before me on the altar. Blowing Rosh Hashanah, we enter the virtual reality of Akedas Yitzchak. Total surrender to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As Abraham and Yitzchak did on the Akedah. The awesome power of the shofar. The awesome power of the shofar. To bring us back to that magic moment of Akedas Yitzchak. On Rosh Hashanah, we do tshuva Yirah. In Kippur, we do tshuva me'ahava. If Rosh Hashanah says Asitem, we shall do. In Kippur, it says it craftem. Get close, that's called tshuva me'ahava. That's the awesome power in Kippur, as opposed to Rosh Hashanah, which is tshuva me'yirah. Then Torah speaks about Sukkot. Torah speaks about Sukkot. And the Torah speaks about Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, which is a separate holiday. You make a Shechianu. You don't make a Shechianu on the 7th day of Pesach. You do make a Shechianu on the 8th day of Sukkot, because Shemini Atzeret is a separate holiday. According to Kabbalah, Simchas Torah is the holiest of all of the Chagim. Because the other Chagim are restricted to Zman and Mokom. They're limited to time and place. Sit in the Sukkah only a certain time. Kippur, certain time. Blow Rosh Hashanah, Shofar, certain time. Shemini Atzeret is not limited to time and place. Shemini Atzeret is Kedushas Haguf. There's no limit. We're supposed to take the joy of Shemini Atzeret with you throughout the year, despite suffering. Sometimes it's very difficult, but that spirit of Shemini Atzeret should last you throughout the year. Therefore, Shemini Atzeret doesn't have a sukkah, doesn't have arba minim, doesn't have a shofar. There's no matzah to eat. It's purely to be in a joyful mood, to be together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Shemini Atzeret is all about. And therefore, according to Kabbalah, it's the holiest of the holidays. Therefore, God says, the rest of Sukkot, you bring many bulls, many offerings for the 70 nations of the world. But on Shemini Atzeret, Only bring one bull. Why? Because Baruch Hu says that's only for me and you, the Jewish people, to be alone with God. Rashi gives a beautiful mashal. A king invited his children X amount of days, and then it's time to pack up and go home. Pack your bags and ready to go. The king says, please do not leave me yet. Stay with me one more day. It is difficult to be your parting, God says. Stay with me for one more day. So Shemini Atzeret, God pleads with us. We had such a wonderful time under the Chagim, climaxing with Sukkot, the honeymoon hut. Now you guys want to go home? Stay with me one more time, one more day. We can have private time together. You don't need a sukkah, you don't need matzah, you don't need the shofar. Us alone together with God. That's Shemini Atzeret. Me and you and me, so happy together. That's what Shemini Atzeret is all about. So we have the 3 Chagim, actually 4. Shemini Atzeret is the 4th Chag, Yemei Shechianu. The 3 Chagim, in honor of the 3 Avot, and the 4th Chag, the most important one of all, Shemini Atzeret is in honor of the 4 mothers, the mamas and the papas. So therefore we have a separate holiday, the 4th holiday. You remain after Sukkot, you make a Shechianu, a private holiday, separate holiday, in honor of the 4 mothers of Israel. And we bring different types of animals on the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan. We bring on the cow bull family, you bring the ram family, sheep, and we also bring goats. Why don't we bring deer or giraffe? They're kosher. Why dafka just these types? So Rashi says, Parim, in honor of Abraham. Abraham was 3rd day after Brit Milah. He was old and sick. He ran to the barn to slaughter a calf to feed the strangers. Didn't know they're malachim. Ezem Mesirat Nefesh, that he did the mitzvah with a calf by giving them tongue on rye. Almost as good as a Zalman's hot dog, perhaps even better. Why rams? The ram of Isaac, Isaac Korban. Ezem Mesirat Nefesh, and Yitzchak Avinu willing to become the ram of God, and a ram was substituted, and Abraham Yitzchak considered that ram as if he himself was being sacrificed to God. And we bring sheep, because Yaakov was a wheeler dealer with sheep with Lavan. So I understand the first 2 categories, Mesiras Nefesh of Abraham, of Yitzchak, but what is Yaakov dealing with Kvasim? Got to do with Mesiras Nefesh. My Rabbi Rapam Zatzal explained, who was Yaakov dealing with? With Lavan. When you're dealing with the Lavans of the world, you're surrounded by crooks and swindlers. Can you remain honest despite the crooks and swindlers out there, like Lavans? That is a test as great as Akedat Yitzchak. Remain honest despite everybody swindling, and therefore that too deserves a korban on the Beit HaMikdash, and therefore we bring these species and not giraffes or turkeys, which are also kosher. On Yom Kippur it says, you shall afflict your souls. But the soul is not being afflicted, it's the body that's afflicted. First it says, afflict your souls. It should say your bodies are afflicted. So v'nitem also means, says the Amcha, v'nitem et nafshotechem means allow your souls to sing. Inui means to sing. Why the same word for affliction and singing the same word? When the body is afflicted with pain and suffering, like Yom Kippur, we're fasting, hungry and we're tired, then yinitem et nafshatechem. Then you're allowing the neshama to sing, because through the pain and discomfort of the body, the neshama gets her kapara. Pain and suffering, fasting, cleanses the neshama from sin. So that's the message of Yom Kippurim. Yinitem et nafshatechem. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all the Chagim that are coming up before we know it. We have to get ready, everyone in their own personal way. Try to do tshuva, to break out of his depression. Despite the illnesses and the suffering, it's a struggle with the Yetzer Hara. But we shall overcome. We shall overcome. God's help. Then the Haftorah mentions Eliyahu HaNavi. What's the connection between Eliyahu HaNavi and Pinchas? So the Kabbalah teaches that Eliyahu HaNavi was a reincarnation of Pinchas. That zealotry of Pinchas, Eliyahu HaNavi had that zealotry, and yet, Kodesh Baruch Hu fired him because he kept complaining, kept putting the Jewish people down. Said the Jewish people have abandoned your bris. Again, abandoned your bris. So God says, I don't want to hear that. You have something to say to them. When you speak about my children to me, I only want to hear positive things. When you speak to them, you can rebuke and criticize them. When you speak about the Jews to God, God only wants to hear good things about his children. Since he kept repeating, they've abandoned your bris, God says, it's not your bris, it's my bris. And I want to tell you, you're not speaking the truth. Therefore, Eliyahu HaNavi is condemned to attend each and every bris throughout the centuries. How much lox and bagels can you eat already? He has to go to each and every bris to testify he did not speak correctly. The Jewish people have not abandoned the bris. 3,300 years later, we still keep the bris. Therefore, Eliyahu HaNavi has to come to testify. The Jewish people have not abandoned the bris by coming to each and every bris. And therefore, he will be the prophet of redemption. He said the Jewish people have no schusim. He will announce the Messianic era to teach that we do have schusim. He did not speak correctly. So there's a connection between the Haftorah, Pinchas, and Eliyahu HaNavi, Parshat, and the Haftorah. Remember the song, The Sounds of Silence? Where do you think that title comes from? It comes from this week's Haftorah. Kings 1, chapter 18 and 19. Eliyahu HaNavi is running for his life. Jezebel is trying to kill him. So he hides out. He runs to the Midbar Sinai and he hides in which cave? Har Sinai, the very cleft in the rock that Moshe hid. And God tells him, what are you doing here, Eliyahu? He keeps saying, the Jews have abandoned the bris. First he hears an earthquake. Then he hears hurricane. Then fire. And mountains being smashed. He's observing this from his cleft in the rock in Har Sinai. God is not into smashing mountains. God is not in the hurricane. And after the hurricane, there's an earthquake. God's not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, he observes a swirling fire. And after the fire, God is not there either. Kol dama daka. Kol dama daka means the sound of silence. Where is God found? Not in shouting, not in great display. Fireworks fizzle out. They don't last. Kol dama daka, the lowly street lamp. Fireworks are wonderful, but they don't give much light. The lowly street lamp lights the way. That's the sound of silence. So just like when Moshe Rabbeinu called the Jews rebels, and he hit the rock, God fired him for insulting the Jews, says Rambam, by calling them rebels. So when Eliyahu Novi insulted the Jews and kept saying, they abandoned your bris, God fired him and said, appoint Elisha, your disciple, in your stead, as Moshe was commanded to appoint Yeshua ben Nun in his stead. So the Navi has a double mission in life. When he's speaking to the Jewish people, he must rebuke them harshly, as we find the prophets do, harshly, takes off the gloves. But when he's speaking to God about the Jewish people, then God only wants to hear good tidings by his children. A parent only wants to hear good about his child. Which parent wants to hear evil? He knows, even though he knows his child is not good, is evil. If you can point out something positive to a person about his wayward child, the father or the mother will be pleased. Same thing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even though some children are not beseder, if we point out the positive aspects, that will please the parent and certainly will please HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is our loving parent. Thank you and good afternoon.
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.